The Steel City will be officially hosting the 2026 NFL Draft. For more on this exciting news and a special guest, City Sports reporter Grace Lombardo has more. Grace.
Thanks, Lily and Natalie. Yes, the NFL Draft in 2026 will be coming to Pittsburgh, April 23rd and through the 25th, The draft will take place on Pittsburgh's North Shore. This year, the draft will take place in Green Bay, Wisconsin, with the first pick going to the Tennessee Titans. And this morning, I have the pleasure of being joined by the voice of the Steelers, Mr. Rob King. Rob, how are you?
Grace, I'm doing well. Thanks for having me.
So this is your first year calling for the Steelers as the voice of the Steelers, as you're called. How was it? What was it like?
Oh, it was phenomenal. It was everything I thought it would be and even more than I hoped it would be. So enjoyable. Great to be around the team. Obviously, they got off to a great start, but just, the opportunity to not only call games, but for an iconic franchise like the Steelers and being a Pittsburgh guy, for a quarter of a century, it's phenomenal.
It was amazing to listen to you.
Thank you.
So after this first season and watching the Steelers kind of struggle to get by and do a really good job in the start and then kind of fall off on the end, what do you think into the postseason? There's been a lot of talk about Mike Tomlin. There's been talk about quarterbacks. What do you think they should look for in the draft and what should change?
Well, the coaching staff, I don't think there's not going to be any major overhauls there. Mike Tomlin and his staff is going to be back. Once again, they produced more wins than was anticipated. But they didn't reach their goal, which was to get into the playoffs. Art Rooney stated it last year, to get to the playoffs, win a game, start closing the gap with the top teams. It looked for a while after that 10-3 start like they'd done that. Obviously, the faltering at the end of the season has got the team, I think, reevaluating what to do. So the biggest thing, obviously, is figuring out who's going to play quarterback. I think that decision will come within the next month or so, certainly prior to free agency, and then continuing to fill holes. I think they were closer than they've been in years past to the top teams, but they still have, obviously, when you see what happened towards the end of the season, some progress that needs to be made.
Yeah, and outside at quarterback, Ben Roethlisberger came out and said he really doesn't think that they're just a quarterback away. What do you think about the team that surrounds that quarterback?
Well, I think they're going to need to add some depth in some areas and some starters in some areas. They need another wide receiver. They're going to need a running back. They're probably going to draft some defensive linemen, I would think, maybe a corner. So there are certainly areas in which the team needs to improve. But they also had 4 Pro Bowlers. And then after, some guys can't play, they added 3 more Pro Bowlers. That's a pretty good snapshot of the health of the rest of the roster. 7 guys going to the Pro Bowl, but they still have some areas they need to shore up. And it's very difficult when you don't have a Patrick Mahomes, a Jalen Hurts, a Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson at that quarterback position. That means you have to be better in other positions. So it's going to be an interesting offseason for sure.
Yeah, for sure. And I definitely think it's going to look better for the team and give them a little more morale to have Russell Wilson at the Pro Bowl with Watt being out. So we'll see what happens, I guess.
We'll see what happens in that position, yeah.
Other than football, you wrote a book.
Yes.
The Door in the Stone. Let's talk about it.
Yeah.
So what was the process like? Has writing always been a passion and you just decided to pursue it?
It has. It's something that I'd started and stopped over the years. And this one, actually, this is The Door in the Stone. And it's a fantasy book sort of aimed at middle grade students, but hopefully all readers of all ages would enjoy it. And that's who's really reviewed it so far. And that's kind of what fantasy books are able to do. I'm sort of constitutionally unsuited to sitting around, but this, so I've always got a project to keep me busy, but this took me 9 years to do. I'm a big reader. Middle grade was the time of my life in which I switched from just reading like sports books and stuff to other books. And fantasy was that's sort of my door to more reading. So The Door in the Stone, illustrated by my daughter, and hopefully people can go to the Pitt bookstore to pick it up.
Yes, Pitt
bookstore.
And
go to Pitt bookstore if you're here. Go to Amazon. Yeah.
And you'll be doing a signing.
Yes, I'm going to be doing one at Riverstone Books on March 21st, and anywhere else it'll happen. But
anyone else will take you.
It's been a fun project and a real passion project.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for joining us this morning. It's been great to talk to you.
You as well. Thank you.
And from Pittsburgh Point, I am City Sports reporter Grace Lombardo. Lily, Natalie.